Hello, and welcome to The Other Side of the Bell, a podcast dedicated to everything trumpet, brought to you by Bob Reeves Brass. We'll help you take your trumpet playing to the next level. I'm John Snell, trumpet specialist here at Bob Reeves Brass, and I'll be your host for this episode. Joining me today is trumpeter, writer, and producer Kyla Moskovich. We'll get to Kyla's interview here in a moment after a word from our sponsor and some trumpet news. Today's episode is brought to you by Bob Reeves Brass, who share your passion for creating extraordinary music. You know that feeling when your instrument just clicks and the music flows effortlessly? That's what Bob Reeves Brass has been helping customers do since 1968. We've helped brass musicians like you achieve their dreams by ensuring their equipment is always in perfect harmony. We know you want to immerse yourself in the art of music making, and we're here to remove any barriers between you and your creative vision. Bob Reeves Brass is truly your one-stop shop for everything you need to fuel your passion and create music that touches hearts and souls. So go ahead, let us help you elevate your sound to new heights. Don't wait another moment to elevate your musical journey with Bob Reeves Brass. Connect with us at bobreeves.com, shoot us an email at info@bobreeves.com, and keep up with the latest news on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at Bob Reeves Brass. Embrace your passion for music and let Bob Reeves Brass be your partner in creating the extraordinary. Well, I just got back from San Antonio, Texas, and another great show in the books. Thank you to everyone who came by the booth at TMEA. Lots of valve alignments, lots of mouthpieces found happy new homes. A lot of you tried the great mute selection we had and found some new homes for the Olvin mutes and the Charlie Davis mutes and, all the stuff we bring. Oh, and by the way, some of the cool guard bags found new homes as well. Always great to see the smiles on your faces when you see some of the cool guard bag designs that we pick up. And also thank you for the podcast listeners that came by. I have a quick shout out to Zachariah. We had a nice chat the other day. He's up in the Washington area, band director who found inspiration from the podcast. He's been listening, I think, almost 10 years now. 2017, I think, is when he first found out about the podcast, and some of the episodes, particularly the Tom Stevens and Malcolm McNabb episodes, inspired him to take his playing to the next level. And as you know, the band directors out there, you music teachers are in the trenches inspiring future generations, and sometimes your chops can go by the wayside. So it was really meaningful conversation, and great that Zachariah has found more inspiration and joy in playing, and hopefully brings that back to the students as well that he teaches. So huge shout out to Zachariah. Hopefully I'll be seeing Zachariah up at one of our events in Washington coming up pretty soon. Coming up next week, I'll be at Dylan Music, long awaited. I think it's been 3 years since our last visit to New Jersey. So many of you have asked when are we going back, and it's finally happening. Looking forward to seeing the fabulous staff at Dylan Music, Jim McCombs and Steve and Lynn Dillon, and all the great. They have such a great store, so much history there, and a very dangerous place to visit because sometimes I leave spending more money than I make. There's still a few slots available for valve alignments. If you want a valve alignment at Dylan Music, sales@dylanmusic.com. Send them an email or give them a call, 732-795-5633, and get on the list. As always, my time is limited. I work from when the plane lands to when the plane takes off. I'll try to squeeze in as many consultations and alignments as possible, but make sure you get one booked. I'll also have the 300 some odd trumpet mouthpieces. We'll have some trombone mouthpieces and horn mouthpieces there as well. And I'm bringing a good selection of Olvin mutes. So if you want to try the Dizzy Cup or the Dizzy Bop, or some of the other great, I think I have some Stubby Bop mutes and also some Poppy Cup and Bop mutes. So if you want to try some of those out, we will have those available to try and to purchase at Dylan Music. Again, the dates for that, February 26 to 28, coming up soon. I get a little breather. Not much going on early in March, but the third week of March is the National Trumpet Competition in Iowa City, Iowa, at the university there. The dates for that, Friday, March 20th through Sunday, March 22nd. That's the exhibit, at least for the exhibit. I think the competition goes a little bit before and after, but we will be there with the whole road show, trumpet mouthpieces, valve alignments, mutes, guard bags, Shire's trumpets. I'll have some Charlie Davis trumpets as well at that show. So a lot of great experiences, a lot of great stuff to try. I do have the link for the NTC alignments, so that'll be in the description. You can also go to trumpetmouthpiece.com and search up National Trumpet Competition, and the valve alignment pre-order form will show up. Great way to get your alignment done while you wait and save $25 at the same time. Dates for that again, March 20th to the 22nd. A few weeks after that, I'm going to our good friends at Metropolitan Music. The dates for that, April 10th and 11th. I may need a correction. I thought we were going to be in Seattle. Metropolitan Music has 2 stores, one in Seattle and one in Kirkland, Washington. The event will be at the Kirkland store. Apparently, they're expecting such a big turnout, and the Kirkland space is larger than their Seattle space, that they're going to have me at the Kirkland store. So if you want to go to that, we're handling the appointments for valve alignments. There'll be a link that you can use, an automated calendar system to choose an open slot. The dates for that, April 10th and 11th. Also, it looks like I'll be staying an extra day on the 12th. The Washington State chapter of the ITG has an event on Sunday, April 12th, and there'll be a vendor room. So as long as I'm up there in the area, I will bring all the alignment stuff and the mouthpieces to Bellingham. I think it's about an hour and a half north for that event. I don't have all the details yet, so you'll have to stay tuned to a future podcast for that. So Pacific Northwest, April 10th and 11th at Metropolitan Music in Kirkland, Washington, April 12th in Bellingham at the university there. And last but not least, the Arkansas Trumpet Day, April 18th at Arkansas State University, Jonesboro, Arkansas. Details still to come on that, the final times. I don't have an alignment sign-up sheet for that yet, but same thing. We'll have all of the trumpets, all of the mouthpieces, and valve alignments there, mutes, guard bags, everything we can ship. So hope to see you at one of those events. You know, it's fun. It's a little, I'll be honest, it's difficult to schlep all that stuff. Sometimes I wish we made plastic mouthpieces, but you know, it's always worth it to see the look on people's faces when they actually get to try the models we talk about or do the consultation and really dial in the equipment to the player. That's why we do it. It's a labor of love. Speaking of which, the Olven mutes, you know, as I mentioned before, we were very happy to acquire that company last year, and we're getting production going, you know, ramping it up. I have a few of the Dizzy Cup mutes that came in, and a few of the copper cup mutes. The Dizzy Cup mute, of course, is that quintessential sound that Dizzy used for many, many years. In fact, I just was on a Dizzy Gillespie Facebook fan page, and there was a great photo of him with his adjustable cup mute and his Dizzy Bop mute sitting right there next to him. And so I'll see if I can get that and share it. But they're great mutes. They have that quintessential Dizzy Gillespie bebop sound. They're kind of hard to come by. Hopefully not going to be hard to come by as we ramp up production, as I'm saying. But I just got a shipment from Sweden. Again, they're all handmade. So we'll have those are on the website, trumpetmouthpiece.com. Just search for Dizzy, and that mute will come up if you want to add one of those to your collection. Other than that, that's all the news I have today. Let's get right to my interview with Kyla Moskovich. I am honored to have joining me today Kyla Moskovich. Growing up in New York City, Kyla got her training from the Manhattan School of Music, studying orchestral performance and arranging. After graduating, she quickly entered into the studio space where she began writing, recording, and arranging, while taking her knowledge of harmony and sound and applying it to her unique musical fingerprint, which can be heard on many world-renowned records. Now based in Los Angeles, multi-Grammy-nominated writer and arranger Kyla has become one of the most sought-after horn producers, collaborating with artists such as J. Cole, Drake, Beyonce, Kanye West, Victoria Monet, Celine Dion, Diana Ross, and more. Now, here's Kyla Moskovich. Oh, I'm so honored to have joining me today on the other side of the bell, Kyla Moskovich. Kyla, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, again, my honor, my pleasure, and excited to talk about trumpet. And let's start right from the beginning. How did you find the trumpet, or did the trumpet search you out?
That's all thanks to my dad, honestly. I got to give him credit where it's due. There was always trumpets laying around the house. My dad always played for fun and has always been a big trumpet fanatic. So I just landed with one in my hand at a very young age, and here we are, 33.
Very young. Like, I mean, how young? I kind of know because, I mean, full disclosure, you and your dad and Bob Reeves were close friends.
Yeah,
So,
I'd say like a year old, even younger.
really, like,
Yeah,
so before you could walk, you had a trumpet in your hands. You were
yeah.
messing around with.
Hmm.
Wow. And tell me, so your dad, I mean, your dad was a veterinarian, but did he play? He played.
Always
Uh,
played for fun.
huh.
He always was a big music fanatic and still is. And so I was always exposed to really great music at a young age.
And it was in New York, right? So
Yeah.
quite the place to find literally the best music in the world.
Yeah.
Every corner you turn. So what did your the first years look like? Would he try to teach you, or did he just kind of let you experiment on the horn?
A little bit of both. I mean, I think he really started teaching me or helping me in a guidance sort of way when I really showed interest in it. But before that, it was just exposure, and he kind of just let me do my own thing, and here we are.
Yeah. So what kind of thing was it? Jazz, classical, orchestra, everything.
Yeah. Just a lot of the music that they exposed me to when I was younger was a lot of classical music, a lot of jazz,
Hmm.
some funk stuff here and there, but a lot of straight ahead jazz and classical.
Anyone in particular you remember
Um,
listening to?
yeah, a lot of Clifford Brown, Freddie Hubbard, a lot of Louis Armstrong, a lot of Stravinsky, Debussy, Ravel, Mahler, a lot of those composers that were big orchestral brass fanatics and would
Yeah.
orchestrate really cool stuff for brass sections.
The good stuff, as I like to call
Yeah,
it.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the good stuff. We're talking about elementary school, right? I mean, to put this in perspective, you're listening to
even
these kinds of
beforehand.
things.
As an infant, there's a
Just,
lot of, yeah, I just remember growing up in a household full of
just
music.
surrounded by it. Oh, and it's amazing, and it's how important it is. Your surroundings, even at an early age. So when did you? I would say get serious, but when did you really kind of start taking a liking to the trumpet?
I would say I remember really taking it seriously in about fourth grade. And that's when my parents realized that there was a talent there that should be honed in on and given some attention. So they put me in, different lessons with different teachers, trying to kind of find what worked best for me. I started learning ear training in New York City with a accompanist for the New York Phil named Michio Morikawa, who I'm still really close with. And my ear has been a very important part of kind of how I've built my career.
And that started in fourth grade, fourth, fifth
I would
grade. Like,
say about fourth, fifth
geez,
grade. And my dad made a very good decision to put me in lessons with a trumpet player named Vincent Penzarella, who took me on when I was super young and realized that I had a very good ear. And Michio actually lived in the same building as him,
really?
um, a couple floors down, I believe. And so he was like, "Look, if you're gonna be taking lessons with me, I want to hone in on one of your strengths, which is your ear, and I want you to get that trained properly." So getting into a structured lesson situation with Michio would be the best for you. And that was one of the best things that really ever happened in
Incredible.
my career. Yeah.
Incredible. So, I mean, we were talking about like solfege and
Yeah, a lot of
piano and
a lot of sight reading, and so it's still one of my favorite things and helps me out a lot in the industry that I'm in.
incredible. And I mean, a shout out to your parents for getting you involved in that and giving you those tools at such a young age.
I know I didn't always appreciate it, but now in my 30s, I definitely do.
It comes back, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I was just having that conversation the other day. Parents, but also teachers too.
Hmm.
When my trumpet teacher told me this when I was 18, and I just, all of a sudden in my 40s, it makes sense.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
didn't get it then. I probably fought it at the same, then, and now all of a sudden it clicks.
Oh yeah, I was a
Yeah.
spicy little kid, so there were definitely times that I'm sure my parents can tell you, like there were moments when I just wanted to be like a normal kid and like go out and play, and my dad was like, "Well, you have to practice. You have to, you know, kind of be a
So
bit of an adult at the same time."
kind of funnel you as best he could. So speaking of practicing, so what did that look like? Is it something you enjoyed doing? That you go home
No,
and no, really?
no, I did not enjoy practicing at a young age. My parents were really strict about that.
So
Um,
they literally had to make you practice. It wasn't something you were excited to get home from school and
no, oh
get the
God,
horn out of the case.
no. And I know that, it was my parents' first time on this planet as well. So they were just doing their best and doing the best that they could. But there were so many moments when I was like, I just want to go to this birthday party, or like, I just want to go and hang out with my friends after school. But it was mandatory that immediately coming home from school, I had to practice like an hour, 2 hours, something like that, and really hone in on my craft and not focus too much on really being a kid.
Hmm.
And there were times when I really resented the jump into adulthood really quickly on, but now I do appreciate some aspects of it. There were parts about it that were really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I appreciate your honesty too, because, growing up and especially being gifted, talented, whatever, I hate using those words because, we all have to work hard. Some people are good at some things, some, struggle at others. But you took to the trumpet fairly quickly. Was there a point when you said, I want to do this the rest of my life? Or was it a thing that you just, happened to be good at that, you were going along this path?
A lot of, if I'm being completely honest, it was a lot of this is what I'm good at, so I'm going to go down this path. But I
Mm-hmm.
found a way later on to kind of incorporate my idea of what this meant for myself into the vision that my parents had built for me on their own, which is really what led me from going to or from starting in the classical realm and the jazz realm to kind of going into the mainstream Billboard Top 100 world.
That you are now. Yeah. And I want to get to that path because it's really interesting following your career from partly the other side of the coast and now on the same
Yeah.
coast. But I want to spend some time on Mr. Penzarella because, Bob had the utmost respect for Vince as a teacher, and I know did a lot of work with him. And one of my regrets is when I first started working here 25 years ago, you got to go fly to New York and get a lesson with Penzarella. And,
Yeah.
I never did. I regret doing it, and I have a million excuses why I didn't go to New York. So I'm curious what your experience was with him, and also the fact that you were quite young. I mean, he didn't take very many, if any, students, right, in
No,
elementary school.
yeah, I was his only like young student. He really became a huge mentor for me at a young age. And he could tell that I was really doing things in my own way, but also he's a girl dad. So I think, saw something in me that was very much something he wanted to help guide, and like he wanted to help nurture. And I'm just super grateful that he kind of laid the stones for the path that I ended up following.
That's amazing. How did he do that? Like, was it?
So my memory is super wishy-washy on it because I was so young. But I remember it started with weekly lessons when I was, I believe, in middle school. And we would go to his apartment in New York City. And I remember he always had this doormat that said "Go away." He's such a sassy guy. Like he always had the funniest. He would make me laugh. He had the funniest sense of humor, and super Italian New York like demeanor.
Mhm.
Super strict, but also found the balance of working with me when I was a child, and still found that balance of fun, but also structured.
Mm-hmm.
What he really honed in on was my ear and my tone. He was a big sound oriented person. So, of course, we worked on technique and all that other stuff, but we really focused on developing my sound and how to get it to be big and natural and kind of just an extension of my human voice,
Hmm.
which I thought was a great thing to hone in on.
Amazing working on that. Yeah, at such a young, and what did that look like? Was that through, I mean, I'm assuming he's doing the fundamentals with you, like Harmons
Hmm.
and Clarks and things like that. Was there anything specific you remember about developing your sound?
Oh yeah, a lot of it was he's very big on sing everything before you play it. If you can't sing it, you can't play it because it means you're not able to hear it properly, mentally. And so a lot of solfeggio work, a lot of singing, which meant developing my human voice in order to better develop the sound that came out of the horn. But yeah, he spent a lot of time singing with me and getting me to solfeggio, even the hardest, biche etudes in like middle school, which are super atonal and insane. But he would, he just had me doing the craziest stuff and never put a limit on how far I could go,
Mm-hmm.
which was fantastic. So
That's
yeah.
incredible. So, I mean, he played with the New York Phil, right? So he primarily classical training. Were you also working on jazz and other idioms at the time? No,
No,
purely.
classical. I remember when he found out that I was doing stuff other than classical, he was kind of like, okay. Like, all right.
The devil's music. What are you doing?
Kind of. But he never disliked jazz or
Yeah.
disliked any other genres, but he was a big classical orchestral guy, so that was his thing.
Hmm.
But he would always throw these parties at his house with all his like college students and people in the orchestra that he would play with. And I remember going to those parties at such a young age. My dad would bring me, and he would make me play in front of all these people, and he was a good hang.
Yeah. What fun. What fun. So,
Yeah,
you studied with him all the way up through college or?
yeah, all the way up through college.
Amazing. And when you were going to school, were you playing in like the school bands and things like that as well? Or?
So that's also a really funny part of kind of my college education and my college experience. So I was a classical major, and Manhattan School of Music didn't allow genre bending or any like cross major type stuff. So if you were a classical major, you were in orchestra, you were in your small ensembles, you were taking your lessons, and then the rest of the time you were in the practice room shedding excerpts. That was it. Or like preparing for juries. But I had gone to I went through a few chop changes, unfortunately, during I think it was my freshman or sophomore year.
Mhm.
And I ended up switching over from Penzarella because he got super busy. He was traveling to Italy to his other estate and all this stuff. So I felt like I needed a bit more hands-on work, and I ended up getting like a dual teacher situation with Mark Gould. And Mark saw that I was super interested in other genres. And because you can't study with anybody from the jazz department, he just didn't tell the school and put me in lessons with Laurie Frink. So I
Oh,
would have
amazing.
2 lessons a week, and I would have Laurie one day and Gould another day.
Incredible. So you get
Hmm.
double teamed by two of the best.
Right.
Let's do it.
And I consider that to be one of the things that I'm so lucky to have experienced was time with Laurie Frank. And she was the one that was like, hey, I see more than just classical music in you. Because she knew about the classical world. She was able to go through excerpts, help me with my jury stuff, help me with all the classical stuff. But she also saw that I was interested in other things. So did Mark. One of the best things that Laurie ever did for me was hand me a microphone, an amp, and a line 6. And she was like, just go have fun with sound. Don't even focus on excerpts right now. You've already done your jury. You've already done whatever. You nailed it. You did great. Go have fun.
Wow.
So that is what kind of got me experimenting with sound and kind of bridging the gap between the jazz world. And then that's what allowed me to, I spoke to Mark Gould, and I would kind of sneak in and listen to some of the other jazz ensembles. And I don't even know how they allowed this to happen, but I was able to participate in a jazz combo and the Afro-Cuban Latin jazz band at the school and a couple of other ensembles, which I definitely wasn't allowed to do, but I did
Breaking
it.
the rules. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, what an amazing story about Laurie too. I mean, we've had a few of her other students on, the podcast before, and I think they've all owed their careers in some form or another to
Yeah.
Laurie.
Yeah, anybody who studied with her was very lucky.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously that was a great example. What about, was there some things like playing wise she worked on with you, or can you get into that a little bit? Yeah.
Everything. She worked on how to make the horn a lot easier on me, and how to not put so much effort into getting the horn to sound the way I wanted it to sound. But a lot of the work that we did specifically was mental work, which is something that I needed a lot of, especially having started young and having had a specific, very militant way of thinking about the horn. And what I love most about Laurie is not one person had the same experience learning with her. Everybody's experience was different. So she basically made a tailored suit of a curriculum for each person that came in and out of her studio. So my lesson plan was not even remotely close to the next person's lesson plan. And that was a really interesting thing. After she passed, a lot of her students got in contact with one another just to compare, like, what were your lessons like? And we all realized, we were like, oh my gosh, she didn't just stick to like a certain way of teaching people. Everyone had different situations.
She had that gift to know what the student needed that was sitting in her studio. Amazing. Yeah. Was it difficult studying with her and Mark at the same time, like getting different directions or different? Or
I think I just was learning very different things from both of them, but both methods were necessary to kind of develop me in my playing and where I kind of ended up.
What were some of the things that Mark worked with you on?
A lot of the classical stuff, a lot of the excerpt stuff, learning repertoire, and also just certain techniques on how to play these excerpts with ease and musicality, so it didn't kind of just sound like a robot, which I feel like a lot of younger trumpet players it lost the emotion in their playing, kind of sticking to these excerpts over and over again. They were trying to play like a specific person rather than like embodying their personality within these excerpts, so they created their own sound. So
fascinating.
Yeah.
Amazing. What an experience. And to put this into context, like you had already had success by this point, like solo wise, right? Hadn't you like won competitions and things like that? And I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I remember seeing like a YouTube video of you with Faddis playing on stage or something like.
Yeah, he's another one who's been a big mentor for me.
Yeah. And how did that come about? That was like one of the first viral, not to put you on the spot, like it had been one of the first viral YouTube trumpet videos, was you getting pulled on stage with Faddis playing a blues or something like that, right?
Yeah. So I met Faddis, I believe, at the International Trumpet Guild competition when I was in middle school. And, have you ever been to the ITGs or NTC competition?
Oh, yeah. I've been to many.
Yeah.
To many.
So they have very much like NAMM, they have the big booths with like all of the vendors and like cases and mouthpieces and just all this gear. And so we had gone up to the showrooms on one of the days, and there was this guard bag that I had like fallen in love with. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. It has a freaking compass on it. It has like, Just like I was a kid. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it rolls. It's like a little suitcase type deal. Oh my gosh, I want it. And I showed it to my dad, and my dad was like, no, put it back. We're not getting it. And I was like, oh, please. And he's like, no, sorry, kid. Put it back. We can't afford that. We're not getting it. I guess on the other side of the room, I guess Faddis had seen that, and he went, bought the case, and then just came up to me and he's like, is this the one that you wanted? And he's like, it's all yours. You can have it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I ran over to my dad and I was like, Dad, this man bought me a case. And my dad was like, what do you mean this man bought you this case? Go put it back. And I was like, no, I'm not lying. This guy got me this case. My dad's like, who? And he goes over, and my dad knows who Faddis is because he's a trumpet fanatic. And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, no, you don't have to do that. And Jon was like, no, please. It's my pleasure. I would like to gift this to her. And that is what started a long friendship. We found out that he was teaching at SUNY Purchase, which was super close to where we live. And so we stayed in contact, and he would, on days after he was done teaching, he would just drive over to our house and hang out with me and listen to records, and we would just do a lot of mental transcriptions and listen to solos. He would just kind of broaden my ear on different things, like a lot of Louis Armstrong, a lot of different artists. And I just remember sitting on the floor and like playing record after record, and he would just talk to me about the history of each record and why it's so important in, what we listen to now and this and that. And then that led to him inviting me places. So he would be like, why don't I have a show at Blue Note, or I have a show here. I have a show at this spot. I would like for you to come and sit in. And so he just kind of exposed me to a lot. And then he actually gave me my first gig, which was,
how cool.
Yeah, I was in middle school, and I remember because I was studying for I think it was my midterm exam. And the rule was you get to be on the gig as long as you bring your flashcards and study during break. And so he would make me study my flashcards, and he would quiz me and all that. And so we were playing at the Louis Armstrong house. It was a week-long gig, I believe, or like a couple days long. And it was with Antonio Hart and all these other great musicians. And yeah, he paid me the same amount as everybody else.
Amazing.
Yep.
But he made sure you've studied.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It sounds like Jon.
Yeah.
His last time he was here in the shop, I had both of my boys here, and I forgot how old they were. Like one was still in a high chair, so he must have been like one and a half, still a baby. And then my older son was the same age as his daughter. And I mean, yeah, Jon, I mean, he loves us and he loves Bob, but he wanted nothing to do with us and trumpet. He wanted to play with the kids.
Oh, so,
yeah. He was sitting down at Bob's desk watching some PBS show with my older son, and he's playing along for my baby, sitting in the back in the high chair. And I mean, what a generous soul. And to give you that kind of experience, like, and that kind of inspiration at such a young age is absolutely amazing. And yeah, but do your flashcards.
Right. Don't get me wrong. Seeing him work with older students of his, I remember one time he was like, why don't you come to SUNY Purchase and listen to a rehearsal we have with the combo, one of the combos that I teach. And I was like super excited. So I went, I listened. Oh my gosh. I was like, I got to see a different side of him that I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, he doesn't speak to me like that. That's crazy. Yeah. He's
strict, demanding, but fair, he knows what you need to do. And also the honoring of the history and the legacy, that jazz musicians come out of. What an experience. So like getting back to when you were in university, like where was your career going at that point? Like, were you being pulled in different directions, or did you have some kind of inspiration of which direction you wanted to go?
I think during my undergrad, it was still very like I was sticking to the plan. The plan was take auditions or prepare for auditions, take auditions, land a gig in an orchestra, keep that, get tenure, and stay there forever. That was the plan. But I think there were a couple times when I had conversations with Mark Gould and Laurie Frink, who were the first two to be like, hey, there are other options other than just that. And I was like, well, I don't understand how I could end up there if my training has only really been on this route. And so I think university was really where I discovered that possibility for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started going out and listening to other genres of music. I would go to hip hop events and, random rap battles that were happening in New York City, freestyle jams and DJ sets and all this other stuff, and just meeting different pockets of people, which I think was super helpful to kind of broadening my vision of what my career could be for myself.
Interesting. Did you listen? This may seem like a stupid question, but I know you were surrounded by big band and jazz and classical music growing up. Did you have a typical teenage music experience listening to the pop songs of the day and the hits and the cheesy music and stuff, or
No, not
were you just
really.
immersed in trumpet?
Yeah, I was just really immersed in trumpet.
So this is kind of your first then foray into those idioms.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you get the bug?
Apparently.
Yeah. That's the dumb question because of where you're at. But so what was that? What did that path look like then? Did you just explore that further?
Yeah, I ended up going to random jams and sessions that were happening in New York, and I landed at this one space called Arlene's Grocery on, I think it was Thursday nights. They had a hip hop, underground hip hop type of session, and there was a small horn section at the time that let me sit in, and I ended up gaining traction there and met a lot of artists that I still work with now and still hang out with now. And so that kind of just broadened my ear, but I got to be in close proximity with some people that really helped broaden my ear. And since my ear was so strong, that was really how I learned. So I got to stand next to some of the dopest musicians in the game who, I watched keys players and how they kind of operated in these settings. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing I learned in that setting was how to listen and not play first. So learning how to communicate mentally by listening to what the drummer was doing, and how to communicate in a setting on stage without any words, just listening to one another, understanding the musical intuition of being in a setting like that. Ultimately, that led me to church, and playing in church also helped broaden my ear and understanding. So I just exposed myself to a lot of different things.
And freelance wise, were you still taking classical gigs, jazz gigs, things like that?
I think by then I had kind of gotten fed up and had enough.
Really? You're
Yeah,
done.
I
No
would
more
do,
excerpts.
right. I would do certain shows and certain gigs. Like if somebody wanted me to play a solo with this quintet or a group or some sort of thing like that, cool, I would do that. Or, the typical Easter gigs, playing trumpet and piccolo in a church, cool. Those are always big money gigs on Christmas and Easter. But aside from that, I was just having fun exploring and really getting out there. And I even remember telling my parents these things like, hey, I'm playing a residency at this place at the Groove in New York City. And they'd be like, playing what? And I'd kind of explain to them. And I think they came like once or twice maybe, but I had that residency for like 4 years.
Not their cup of tea.
No, I think they were just a bit confused by like what I was actually doing.
Yeah.
But so was I at the time. Let's be real.
Yeah. So was there a point when you started realizing what you're doing or getting that clarity?
I think I'm still trying to figure that out, if I'm being completely honest. Every
Mm-hmm.
day is so different. You meet different people, you get exposed to different things, you have different experiences. I think it's just a matter of not blocking myself from experiencing those and staying so strict to like a specific idea of what I'm supposed to be doing, you know?
But it was during that period where you started doing like the writing, right, as well, and
Yeah.
producing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So jumping on the other side of the microphone, or
Yeah. I always sang and I always was very big on balancing the vocals with the trumpet thing, but I think it became more relevant and prominent when I left college and really started just experimenting with sound in different ways. And then I started getting into studio life and realizing what that was like, and getting opportunities to write with different people and create with different people in a different form. And a lot of the people I met at Arlene's Grocery, that event was called The Lesson, by the way.
mm-hmm.
And I would create with those guys in different capacities. And it was just a whole mumbo jumbo of just random experiences that gave me the ability to learn from those, and take each bit of, little pieces of it and kind of put it in my back pocket as I kind of traveled through my path.
Yeah. So you're doing some recording, doing some writing, doing some producing. Did you ever do any touring at this point, or
I
was it all
started,
local?
yeah, I was doing some touring, mostly like one-offs or like small short tours, but I really started touring in, I think it was 2014, 15, like right when I got out of college. I landed a tour with Macklemore, and I toured with him for like 11 years, 12 years. It was pretty crazy.
That's a long stint in pop music world,
Yeah.
especially as
Mhm.
a horn player too. We're usually the first to go. Well, so was that your first kind of like major artist that you had worked with, or had you?
No, I had worked with a bunch of major artists before that, but he's, I think, the longest standing one that I had, the longest working relationship with.
Who was the first kind of? I know the people you were doing the residencies and stuff where you guys all worked your way up into the business, but where there's a point like you got a call from an artist, and you're like, oh, this is another level.
Yeah, I think one of the first was really J. Cole. He was really one of the first major artists that I had the privilege of working with. And man, I'm trying to go back in time and like remember all this stuff. It's all a mumbo jumbo of like,
Ancient history.
yeah.
It's like when I interviewed Doc Severinsen, I was like, oh, back in 1939.
Yeah, but
It's
his
like,
memory is crazy.
oh yeah, I don't even remember what I had for breakfast, and he's talking about the trumpet section in
Yeah,
Tommy Dorsey's band or something.
yeah.
So I mean, do you remember how you got connected with J. Cole? Was it just through your connections that you were doing the residencies with?
Yeah, it was just a buddy of mine that I had met in the jazz scene in New York. He randomly called me one night. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" And I was like, "I am sitting at home just hanging." And he was like, "Well, if you're not busy, they need a horn player. They need a trumpet player to go down to Electric Lady and work on this album." And I was like, "Okay, I trust you, homie." And then I went, and that turned out to be the For Your Eyes Only album by J. Cole.
Man.
And that's how it began. I think that was one of the first major studio moments for me where I was like, oh, I like this. This is fun.
Yeah, there was a buzz there. I mean, did that kind of springboard you at that point then? Like the recognition from being on such a high profile album?
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did. And it just kind of snowballed from there, which was really cool.
So I like to think that music schools these days are doing a better job at kind of the reality of a working musician's life,
Yeah.
that we do play more than one genre and we do have to go on tour or go in the studio, things like that. What were some of the things, like, for example, on J. Cole's album or some of the later studio or touring stuff you did that you had to kind of learn on the job that school didn't really prepare you for?
Everything new age. So I was on the cusp of like using compute, like we didn't use computers at Manhattan School of Music. It was all manuscript paper. It was all analog.
Mm-hmm.
So anything digital or using a computer or electronics or microphones or recording or using an interface. I didn't learn a single bit of that in school. I didn't even know how to use a computer. If I needed to use one, I would go to the library. But yeah, all of it. I was exposed to all of it after school, where understanding what mics were suitable for my specific sound, how I wanted to sound, and how to emulate that sound and get it to sound a specific way, how to find my specific fingerprint in like what makes me sound different than other people, especially in a recording setting, how to use Pro Tools. Or any DAWs of any sort, all of it, understanding what a talkback microphone was and how to use that and all of it, even just etiquette in the studio. I'm just glad I was a very observant person and was able to listen and understand and not just jump in and go.
And yeah, learn along the way, right? And
Mm-hmm.
just because we have a lot of international listeners as well, and most of them are probably younger than me and know what a DAWs is, but that's a digital audio
Workstation.
workstation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they use for like live concerts and stuff, right? To
Production.
program or production, yeah.
Yeah, so Ableton, Logic, Pro Tools, all the things.
And I have to ask, so was the mic and the amp that Laurie Frink gave you, did you actually experiment with that? And was that helpful? that
Oh,
got
yeah.
you along the way?
Well, she gave me like a looping station. I was able to make like random cool stuff. I was able to mess around with reverb and see what that was like and just experiment with sound and not really focus on perfection.
So you had some experience. It's just thanks to that you weren't
Yeah.
starting at zero. Amazing. So Macklemore. I mean, I was a huge fan of Macklemore. What was that like when you got that call and now you're going out on I mean, those were like major world tours, right?
Yeah. They
I mean,
were
he was
super fun.
huge.
Yeah. I was really privileged to see and explore the world in that capacity with such a great artist. And we're still very close. And he's addicted to touring in the
hmm
greatest way possible. So we had a lot of opportunities to travel the world and play on some of the biggest stages. And that was also another learning environment for me that I got to really expand on. But what I really appreciate about Macklemore is he allows you to really be yourself on stage and doesn't want you to just, sidestep and just look cute. That's not him at all. He wants it to be a whole fun experience. So the show is very cardio based. Like you're running around, you're doing a lot of choreography, you're singing, you're doing all this fun stuff. So I got some pretty fun experiences.
How cool was it? I mean, had you done any big shows before that? You know, stadiums and the like, or
Yeah, I had, but not while living on a tour bus or while flying every day or every other day or, not going home for long periods of time. There was a definite learning curve with that lifestyle that I think I was privileged enough to be in an environment where learning that was allowed
Mhm.
and appreciated and understood. So there was wiggle room to really figure that out for myself.
And the crew was great, and I mean that was a big production, right? I mean, how many people toured?
Well, there were three buses. You have the
Jeez,
artist bus, the crew bus, the band bus. I'm sure there were more that I'm just forgetting
tech and all
about.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very large crew, is a very large crew, and he just likes to have fun.
Mhm.
He's like a little kid. He really, he's inspired me in a lot of ways, and I'm just really privileged to have worked with him for that long and to still have that relationship.
Amazing. And I mean, were you able to do other projects while you were touring? Were you doing any other recording, or were you still based out
Yeah.
of New York then, or had you come out to LA?
So I was still based in New York
Okay.
during that time. And yeah, what I loved about Macklemore and still do is there was never like a closed contract or an exclusivity contract where you have to work solely on Macklemore's stuff when you're on the road with Macklemore. So like I would bring my little travel studio with me and write on the road and work for other artists on the road. And even on off days, I would book studios in random cities and random places around the world, which also allowed me to meet some really cool people and connect with studio owners in different corners and pockets of the world. So then if I ever went back, I would go and, or I can recommend the studio to other people who might be looking for a studio while they're on tour, just fun stuff like that.
And this is all independent. I mean, all of your production was people that were hiring you because they knew about you. It wasn't part of a
Yeah.
company or.
I think that's something that's been really cool for me in my career is I've gotten myself here 100% by myself. Of course, with the help of my parents in the beginning, but in terms of making my connections and keeping those relationships and building on those relationships to help nurture them, that was something I did completely by myself. And so everything was word of mouth and recommendation from either something they had heard me do previously or, you know, seeing me live. One of the two.
Yeah, incredible, and the skill set that goes along with running your own. I mean, you're one person small business.
It got to a point where it was so overwhelming, and I was like, I have to remind myself daily that I chose this life. This was a cognitive choice. I made this decision.
You could be sitting in an orchestra somewhere, you know.
Right.
You show up on this time and that day, and then you go home, you know.
Right. And a lot of people, even still, they don't understand that, like, hey, the trumpet is a monophonic instrument. In order to record, like, a larger scale arrangement, it's not going to take me 25 minutes like it would to create a small arrangement on a piano or a workstation. It's going to take some time because you got to stack things out. You got to record things properly and it needs to be panned properly. It's a whole process. So there's still moments when I'm like, hey, just a reminder, I'm just one little lady. Like, be patient with me.
I need this yesterday. Come on.
You'd be so surprised.
I mean, how was the trumpet through all of this? I mean, did you keep up a regular routine with the touring and, you know, or did it kind of take
Routine? What do you mean? Like practicing routine?
Yeah.
No, it's impossible. It's, at least for me, it was physically impossible. I always warmed up before I played. I always warmed down after a show. But in terms of scheduling time to practice, it's always really difficult. You know, you're staying in hotels, there's noise restrictions there. You know, I would sometimes practice in a hotel room if I felt very inspired, but most of the time you're sleeping or you're out getting some fresh air and you're giving your chops a break.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really, that was determined by what the tour schedule was predominantly. And then not to mention when you're living on a tour bus, forget about it.
No one wants to hear you practice.
No.
Even in a practice mute, you know.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so when that's the case, I'll typically at the venue find places to hide away and practice for a little bit or just keep my chops up to shape. But there's, you know, in Macklemore's show, there's so much playing that my chops were always in such great shape by the end of a tour.
Road chops.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So you didn't get yourself turned around, which I know is unfortunately common, especially going on the road for that long and that extensively. So you must have had good fundamentals. Someone set you up right.
Yeah, somebody set me up right.
So what brought the move to LA?
I think after doing J. Cole's album, I realized how much fun I had in the studio. And New York is phenomenal for live stuff and getting your live chops up and learning how to communicate with people and how to interact with people and how to foster good relationships and hustle. But I think realizing that I wanted to be more in studios, and also I was getting flown out to LA for certain studio opportunities. And I was like, you know what? I've been in New York my whole life. Let me just try something new for a little bit. So I got back from a tour and just decided to try it out. Bought a one-way ticket and landed a gig really quickly into that. And also got the opportunity to be a part of a really cool writing camp as soon as I landed in LA. I had
Hmm.
reached out to a friend and said, "Hey man, I know you moved to LA a while ago. I would love to meet up for coffee with you. I'm about to fly over there. I don't have a return ticket. I'm just going to kind of go over there and see how it goes." And he was like, "That's crazy that you reached out. There's actually a writing camp starting in a few days, and I would love to bring you in on that to work with D Mile." He is still a producer that I work with consistently. So
You had
that is where I met a lot of the artists that I work with now.
you had a connection almost literally the first day. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I mean, that's a big risk picking up. I mean, you'd mentioned you already had contacts out here from New York and people that flip coasts, but that's a big move. Um,
Yeah.
and so is the stuff you're doing today? I mean, I know you're still playing. Are you more? Would you say more on the writing, producing side of things? Or are you still getting a lot of opportunity to play?
Oh, I get a lot of opportunities to play, which is something I really love, is I found a really good balance between the live playing and the studio arranging. But it's just a big mix of fun stuff. Like later on, I'm playing a gig at Hotel Cafe with a big band of really cool people.
Hmm.
So my chops are definitely getting what they need to, and my mental is definitely getting what it needs to. But then, yesterday I was in a session writing a song vocally, didn't touch my horn in the session. But then the day before that, I'm doing a whole horn arrangement for an artist. It really varies. And I think that's what's so great about being somebody in this industry with like ADHD is like, it doesn't have to look the same every day. I can do something, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That variety it comes with some uncertainty, but it's fun. Keeps us motivated.
Most
I mean, so how long ago did you move out to LA? Was that post COVID or pre
It was
COVID?
pre-COVID.
Okay.
Crazy. But that whole time period is just a super wishy-washy in my brain. It's like a couple of those years didn't even exist.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
during the pandemic was really when I started learning how to properly record myself from home and started really putting my horn arranging out there for others to hear, not just on albums and records, but just like on social media and just messing around.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah,
we all kind of were forced to retool because of COVID, and yeah, that's
weird times.
it was weird, but you come out the other side of it with a skill set and finding yourself. But what tips could you, since you mentioned you mastered the recording at home thing, what are some tips for our listeners for recording yourself? Any particular equipment or setup?
You don't need the most expensive microphone in the world. Just know your microphone inside and out. And if you know your microphone well enough, you can get it to sound kind of how you want it to.
Mhm.
And rather than going out and buying the most expensive gear, like just learn how to mix your own horns and vocals or whatever you're doing. And once you start upgrading on the equipment, it's going to make that process make so much sense. Yeah, I think trying to do the most with the least is going to help in the beginning. And then as you grow, I'm trying to think of like good advice to give. I think really it's just a matter of messing around and finding out, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that experimenting, starting, right? I was just someone who was like reading, how to make money in real estate, and they spent tens of thousands of dollars in courses and books and things like that. And they had spent $1 in actually jumping into the real estate market,
Mhm.
and it's like, man, over that 10 years that you spent all that money learning, you could have been learning by doing,
Yeah,
jump
just
in, start.
do it. Just
Like,
try and do it.
yeah, like Laurie handing you the mic and the amp and the loop effect.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing you, like, you toured with Kanye, right? Like, was that
Yeah.
while you were out here in LA? How did that come about?
So I actually went to, it was like a jam session at Sofitel, like my first night in LA, I think. I had reached out to a friend and they were like, yeah, there's this jam session that happens at Sofitel. You should come by, sit in. And I met a saxophone player named Jordan Donald, and we started playing in this little band together. I forget the name of the other guys, but that led to Phil Cornish finding out about me, and he reached out and asked me if I wanted to be part of Sunday Service Collective. And so I was like, yeah, I it would be nice to have a gig out here. And so began the Kanye journey.
That was one of those moments is like, again, knowing you through Bob and your father. And I think I'd saw you on Macklemore years before, but hadn't really, we hadn't been in touch, and Bob hadn't been in touch with anybody. And I think I was watching, it was probably like Coachella or something. Like, and then, and yeah, there's Kanye. And I was like, that's Kyla. That's
Yeah.
oh, she's playing with Kanye. Good for her.
Yeah.
You popped up. He did that Sunday servicing for a good stint too, didn't he?
Yeah, that was a nice long little gig there.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of fun experiences. It gave me an opportunity to really learn how to kind of just go with the flow and see what was going to happen. You never knew what was going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
when you're working with an artist of that caliber, especially him. He's got so many ideas, and you just got to be ready at all times. So it was very much, I think what set me up for that was playing in church and understanding how that setting functions and arranging in that environment for specific instrumentation. So that
Having
really set me up to be successful in Kanye's group.
having that combination of skill sets, yeah, yeah. Any other pick? I mean, you've played with so many folks and recorded. Any other particular either recordings or performances that stand out so far in your career?
I think one of my most recent ones, it was actually the first time my dad got to see me, like, because my parents know that I work in studios and that I do this and that, but they don't really understand because they've never really been exposed to that type of stuff. So my dad had come out to LA to visit me, and I got a call from D Mile saying that he wanted me to help produce this record for Celine Dion, but it needed a full choir and a full horn arrangement and all this funky fun stuff. So that was the first record that I had like 100% creative freedom to kind of arrange as I wanted to. And so my dad sat there while I arranged, tracked, mixed, and did all this stuff for the Celine record. And the whole time he was very confused, but also very impressed because he's like, oh, so this is what she's been talking about this whole time. This is what she's been doing. All right.
How cool!
So that was really fun.
Yeah, and I mean, he was a huge fan of music, but it was always on the going to a concert, going to a jazz club, listening to a record side, not the production side. So,
Yeah.
well, that's amazing that he got to have that experience. A cool album too. Which one? You said it was Celine Dion.
Yeah, it was a movie that she had done recently, but the record's called Waiting on You.
How cool!
Yeah.
Amazing. Any projects in the pipeline that you can share or that you're working on?
I'm working a lot with this really cool artist named Jay Hart, who writes for all of your favorite artists. I really enjoy working on his music. I'm working with an artist named Hope Tala, who's phenomenal. A bunch of other really great artists and musicians and live shows, but most of which I can't really speak on yet.
Yeah. And that's why I have websites and social media. And that's why I wanted to ask you. I mean, how important is it now, especially being a freelancer? How important is social media to stay on top of people's minds or connections?
This is where I really fall short, and I need to do a better job of picking up the slack here because I am, as I said earlier, I'm like right on the cusp of like, I come from a very off of the computer type of realm with the classical music and learning at Manhattan School of Music, but I'm still getting used to how to be more present on social media and what that really looks like for me. But it's extremely important because in this day and age, it's like out of sight, out of mind. People just want to know what you're up to. And I think of Instagram as really a digital portfolio. So especially if like someone's going to hire you for something or like you get recommended, I think not I think, but I know most times people will just go directly to this person's Instagram to kind of like look at what they're doing. So I am really bad at posting on social media. And luckily I have a great team of management that's been kind of getting on my case about how to improve that.
But you do have it, and I mean, I think I'm always inspired by the stuff you post,
Oh, thank you.
um, yeah, it's one of those things. Well, you're not posting because you're too busy, which is a good thing. But if you're too busy and you don't post, and people forget about you, it's like this
Right.
vicious cycle.
Right. But, I see so many people that have like a really great rollout of stuff that they're doing and focusing more of the attention on the social media rollout, which is something I definitely need to improve upon.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I guess I'm just so cynical about the whole thing. And like, even just hearing my own voice when I'm talking, I'm like, oh God, or like watching myself, I'm like, oh, cringe. No.
Yeah. Hey,
I gotta
friends.
put it.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah, it's finding
trying
your
to,
authentic self, but still putting yourself out there is that, yeah, finding that balance.
yeah.
I mean, do you ever want to pull out the beach etudes again? Or are you
Oh,
done
all the
with them?
time.
Really?
All
You
the
still
time.
practice those? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are some trumpet buddies of mine that like get together every so often and just like practice together. We're still nerds, because
So
as I said, there's like different pockets of people that I hang out with out here. I have like my brass friends. Like I have a group of guy friends that we all hang out together and we all play brass instruments and we go play disc golf and then we go and back to somebody's apartment and like play a card game and then like noodle on our instruments and play etudes and do dumb horn exercises. And we're still real nerds at heart. And then, I have the producer crew that I hang out with that's like, they don't know anything about it. Actually, I went to NAMM a couple weeks ago
mm-hmm.
and I brought one of my production partners with me. His name's Parker K. And we were just talking about it yesterday. But when we first showed up at NAMM, the first group of people that we met up with was like my brass crew, my horn guys. So Parker got to meet them and they were one personality or one type of personality, like super nerdy and like, brass guys.
Yeah.
And then later on in the afternoon, we met up with a couple of my producer homies. Later on, when we were driving back to LA, Parker was like, the difference between going from your horn friends or your brass friends to your producer friends, he's like totally different worlds.
100%. 100%. I mean, and just walking through NAMM, you can see those little, I don't want to call them cliques, but the personalities go into the drum section, go into the DJ section, go into the nerdy audio file section,
Yep.
and then you come over to the brass band and orchestra and
Mm-hmm.
yep.
I love it.
It's like high school all over again in the musical world.
Yeah, and hearing it from his perspective, oh, I was dying of laughter. It was so funny to me because I never
Yeah.
really think about it that way
Yeah.
because I was just exposed to so much in New York.
But it's absolutely true.
About how that might come off to somebody else.
So now, and you're not doing any touring at the moment, right?
No, so
Okay.
I decided to take some time off the road almost a year ago so that I can focus a little bit more on honing in on other talents and giving that some time. Because when you're on the road, it's really hard to split your time between certain things. And I wanted to kind of learn other cool stuff and also make my own music because I've put a lot of energy and time into helping other people bring their projects to life, which I'm completely honored and grateful to have been a part of. But it's also, I experienced a bit of guilt not having my own stuff, that I've put the same amount of effort into as I have other people's projects.
And so that at this time off the road, have you gotten into a regular practice routine, or is it just depend on the day and what you? I know you're busy, so it depends on what you have.
Yeah, it really depends on the day, but I always find time to pick up the horn. There's always a moment when I have to pick up my horn every day, whether it's to work on an arrangement for somebody that I have to send out, or whether it's to cut a solo on somebody's stuff, or even just my dad and I will practice on Zoom together
Oh,
sometimes
how
and just
cool.
do calisthenics and like warm up studies.
Do you have some go-tos? Like, if you only have 5 minutes to get on the horn.
Any flexibility exercises or like stamp even.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of, and I know not everybody is, but I'm a big fan of mouthpiece buzzing and also lead pipe playing. So I will do a lot of that stuff in like the early part of the day just to kind of get the blood flowing and activate the muscles.
Amazing. And since this is a trumpet podcast, we are going to make the geeks happy out there. Let's talk about equipment. So what are you using now?
um, so I have played on the same horn that I've played on since fourth grade. Just a Bach 37 Strad. I love her. She's phenomenal. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I have had a lot of people make me horns, try and send horns over for me to try, and I'm not the biggest equipment nerd. Sorry to let down the other equipment nerds, but
It's
I've played
okay.
on the same setup since fourth grade. um, and I've experimented with a couple different things here and there, and also I do play a lot of flugelhorn,
Hmm.
which personally I feel is my strength in a lot of ways. I play an Adams flugel, which I'm obsessed with, and pretty much same mouthpiece, but on flugel, 3C or a 1 1/4C for a nice big fat sound.
Man. And for the pop stuff too, 3C
Can you
for the
believe
pop
it?
stuff. Woo.
I'm not going to sacrifice my sound for a shallower mouthpiece. But, there are some people that can get a really nice sound on a shallower mouthpiece, but I tend to bottom out
Hmm.
on certain things. So I just learned how to get my technique and my body to do the work for me versus the equipment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
And then, do you have a preferred microphone that you use when you're recording, or is that
So
just depends?
yeah, when I first started, I had an SM7B, which I think everybody should own in general. It's just a great overall mic. It's the
Hmm.
the Michael Jackson like cutting vocals mic type of situation. A lot of podcasters use it. You have one right there.
That's why I
Uh,
sound like Michael.
yeah, but I learned that mic inside and out and got it to sound the way I needed it to and capture what it needed to
Hmm.
just by learning that mic really well. And it's a super inexpensive microphone. But recently, a couple of years ago, I decided to upgrade and kind of experiment with different qualities of sound and different builds of microphones and kind of understanding those. I have a couple super nerdy, geeky friends who are very microphone oriented, a lot of mixers and engineers who gave me a lot of great tips on that. And I was able to go over to a couple buddies' places and do some mic shootouts and mess around and find out. Blind shootouts are really fun for anybody that wants to give those a shot. But I recently started working with this company called Vanguard Audio Labs, and they make really, really, really beautiful microphones that capture brass really well. I mean, they capture everything really well, vocally. And so I wanted ideally to find a microphone that worked best for vocals and trumpet and flugelhorn. And so I think with Vanguard's V13 and their V4 microphone, that's really where I landed.
Cool. How long have you been using that?
Honestly, not that long, couple
Really?
months.
Oh, you just picked it up. Yeah.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 months ago.
Cool.
And that's
Yeah.
been an absolute treat and a half.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. Before our interview, there's a great, I don't know if you call it a podcast or whatever. You did a thing just for the record on YouTube,
Hmm.
that where like it basically goes through your recording process. So for any of our listeners, well, I think we can link to it down in the description. Curious, like getting to be in the studio with you and going through your artistic process and the recording process and stacking. That was really cool that's out there.
Yeah, I would love to do another one of those, man. It's so fun. And I love working with Moritz Braun. He's a fantastic human being, studio owner, engineer. He's phenomenal. And I'm very privileged to have grown a great working relationship with him since moving to LA. And he's been able to give me some amazing advice on how to navigate certain situations, how to even work on my own music. And if you guys ever get a chance, stop by Just for the Record.
Mm-hmm.
In Los Angeles. Beautiful studio, absolutely aesthetically pleasing and functional in all the forms, but
Yeah.
good establishment.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out that video. It's a fun one.
That was cool. Yeah. Kyla, it's been an absolute honor having you on. I really appreciate your time talking about your career so far. I mean, you're still in the upward trajectory. It's really great to see where you're going. Before I let you go, well, first of all, let me ask, where can folks find out about you? What's the best Instagram or YouTube or?
Yeah, I mean, you can search my name on YouTube, but also my Instagram is just my name,
Mm-hmm.
Kyla Moskovich. So is it? Let me double check that.
And we'll have that.
I'm saying I need to be better at the social media thing because my goodness, it's Kyla
underscore.
Moskovich.
Yeah, Kyla _Moskovich. And we'll have links to that so folks can find you. And like I said, absolute honor having you on. Before I let you go, though, I have to ask my last doozy of a question that I always ask. If you could leave our listeners with your best piece of advice, and it could be about anything, doesn't have to be trumpet or even music related, but it could be. What would your best piece of advice be?
Oof. Probably to take care of yourself. Understand that this is something that we do for fun. And I think a lot of that fun gets lost in, when you start to make this a real profession. And to remember that it should be fun at the end of the day. And, the horn is meant to be a buddy, a friend, not an enemy. So enjoy yourself. And that in turn will take care of you, if that makes sense.
Very well said. Great advice, Kyla. We'll have you on in another few years, see where things are with your career. And yeah, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, this was an amazing interview, and I knew it was going to be. So a huge shout out to Kyla for her time, taking a break in her busy career, as you could tell. She said she just did horn tracks 2 days ago and writing, producing, and doing vocal tracks yesterday. And thankfully, I was able to sneak into a window today to get that interview. And what an inspiring person Kyla is. And this interview was even more meaningful, at least for me and for us here at Bob Reeves Brass, as I had mentioned and kind of alluded to through the conversation. Her father was close friends with Bob Reeves, close personal friends. And I mean, the timing is just crazy because when she was, I think, around 8 or 9 was when I started working for the shop. And, Bob was always talking to her dad, Dr. Oz, as we called him, Oz Moskovich. And, Bob would always tell me, Dr. Oz has this amazing daughter playing trumpet. And so, we were always tied into her trumpet playing and her career as it was progressing from my earliest days here in the shop. So I really don't know this shop without kind of having ties to Kyla and her family. So to be able to interview her and to hear the stories and to hear her side of things, because of course, the stories I got from about Kyla's career and what she was doing always came through Bob, which then came from her parents. And I really, as I mentioned in the interview, appreciate her honesty. Everything wasn't just sunshine and roses. Obviously, she was gifted, talented, practiced, had all these tools given to her by her parents and her teachers, which of course she was grateful for, but it was difficult. Like she said, sometimes she just wanted to be a kid and go to birthday parties. So it's really cool to see, first of all, how successful she's become and how she's able to find her passion and where she fits into the music business. Really cool interview. So I hope you got as much out of it as I did. We covered a lot of topics just from the playing side of things, but the teaching side of things. And the recording, the business side aspects of a career in music today. And amazing. So huge thank you to you, Kyla. You're still on the upward trajectory, still very young in your career. So we'll be checking back in with you to see what other stories you have years from now. Thank you for listening. I'm going to remind you, I've reminded you 150 times, and I'm going to remind you 150 more. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on like and notify on YouTube. And if you're watching this, I know we get a lot of watchers on YouTube now that we've been posting videos. Leave us a comment. If you liked it, tell us why. If you didn't like it, nicely give us some constructive criticism. What were some of the things that Kyla said that really stood out to you? Feeding that algorithm helps us. And the more it helps us, the more podcasts we can create for you. As you know, it's all about goodwill in the community and giving back as much as we can. So we want to do more of that in the future. And speaking of that, I have an exciting announcement that I can make, hopefully in the next episode or two, talk about giving back. We have a really cool project that we're working on for May. So for those of you who've listened to this whole thing, there you go. There's a little teaser to tune into future episodes. And with that, let's go out and make some music.